Mrs. Reynolds arrived at my office right on time. She looked as stunning as ever, today dressed in red knee-length tank dress with matching red heels. She was amazing looking, and my heart skipped a beat when she walked into my office again. "Hello, Beverly. Thanks for coming by. It's nice to see you again. Please, have a seat," I said as she came in the office. "Hello, Peter. Thank you. I hope you have some news for me," she replied with a smile. "Well, I do have news. But before we get to that, would you like a cup of coffee? I was just about to make myself one before you came in." "Yes, I would love a cup of coffee. Thank you. How do you take it? Cream and sugar, please." I went over to the door and gave it a quick twist of the lock. With what I was going to have to tell her, I didn't want to be disturbed. I brought us both a cup of coffee, sat down in my chair, and then I got out the folder I had on her husband. "Oh my, is that all on Paul?" she asked. "Yes, I did a good bit of checking on your husband. I wanted to be sure of my findings." "And are the findings good?" she asked, the lilt in her voice sounding hopeful. I didn't answer that question just then. I couldn't. I started out with the usual background check. You gave me enough information to do a pretty thorough check on Paul. I ran his driver's license and did a credit check on him. You gave me the credit card numbers for the 4 cards, but in my credit check I found he had 2 more, a gold MasterCard and a platinum Visa. Oh, yes. I also ran the names of his past affairs. The one, an Angela Baskins, is now married and living in Seattle. The other, Tanya Robbins, is still in the area, living in Brooklyn. "I see," she said, her hopeful tone dying down some. "And now for the bad news. There is no easy way to tell you this, so I'm just going to be straight with you." I started. "Please, Peter, please tell me the truth." "The truth is that you were right to suspect your husband. Paul is cheating on you." Her name is Christina Allen, a 22-year-old barista working at the Starbucks in his office building lobby. Beverly sat there across the desk from me, very quiet. I could see the hurt and defeat in her face, though this was one part of the job I could do without. "I have some pictures of the 2 of them together. You don't have to look at them, if you don't want." "I want to see them," she said, cutting me off in mid-sentence. I turned the folder to her and sat there watching her go through the pictures. Her eyes got misty, then a tear rolled down her soft cheek as she went picture by picture and saw with her own eyes her husband in the arms of another woman. I had taken out the most extreme pictures, not wanting to crush her completely, but there was enough photographic evidence left in the folder to hang him twice over. Suddenly, she did something I did not expect. Beverly sat straight up, tall and proud, wiping any tear from her eye, and composed herself, determined to be a lady. She stood up and spoke. "Thank you, Mr. Kirkman, for your help in this matter," she said, matter-of-factly. I stood and walked around the desk, a bit surprised at her sudden turn. I came up to her, and she took my hand to shake it. That's when the woman in her came out. The second I gripped her hand in a gentleman's handshake, her legs buckled. I reacted quickly and caught her before she fell completely, and she began sobbing. "Oh, Peter, what am I going to do?" she sobbed, shaking as her world fell apart. I helped her over to the couch on one side of my office. "Here, Beverly, lay down here for a bit," I told her. I dragged a chair over to sit with her. "I know this is a terrible blow. Believe me, you aren't the first one that has found their husband or wife was unfaithful. This type of thing is a private eyes bread and butter, I'm afraid. But you seem to be a strong and independent woman. You will get through this, and you will be stronger and smarter on the other side." "But she is so pretty, and I'm just—" "You are very attractive, Beverly. I thought so the very minute I saw you in my office that first day you hired me," I said, holding her hand. "And I meant it too." She was a knockout. "Really? You mean that?" "Of course. Why, any man would desire to have a woman like you. And your husband is a fool, if you don't mind my saying so, for even looking at another woman, much less a blonde girl like the one in those pictures." The emotions of the moment must have gotten to Beverly right then, because she pulled me out of my chair and over to her. I moved to sit on the edge of the couch next to her, but that's not what she wanted. She pulled me on top of her before I could stop myself. "Mrs. Reynolds, I can't." "You are a client," I said, shocked at this turn in her. "Peter, please, it's all right. I just need—" It was at that moment my walls crumbled also. Beverly Reynolds didn't know it, but I had been dreaming of her since the day we met, and now, needing validation that she was still beautiful and desirable. Well, what is a guy to do? I bent down and kissed her hard and genuinely. We kissed for several minutes as our passions grew. "Peter, would you? I mean, please, Peter," she asked, her eyes pleading with me. Without another word from either of us, I got up and took her hand, helping her to stand. I held her close for a moment, kissing her again. Can you guess what happens next? I lifted the beautiful woman to her feet, and she threw her arms around me, kissing me deeply. "Thank you, Peter, for the work you've done and for this." Yes, I pretty much knew Paul was cheating on me. The signs were all there, but I needed confirmation. It still hurts, sure, but at least I know now. The woman was every bit a lady, and she maintained her class and charm despite the circumstances. I really admired that. I was glad that she hired me for this investigation. Beverly Reynolds did divorce her husband, getting a very nice settlement from him due to his repeated affairs. She won the house in the Hamptons, the Lexus, and a very nice alimony settlement. She also took her maiden name of Jackson back as well. I testified at her divorce, and all the details I had found on him came out in court. But in order to preserve his practice, and Beverly's very generous settlement, an agreement between her and Paul kept all the sordid details under wraps. Beverly and I continued to see each other regularly, until one day when we decided it made no sense to both keep separate residences. The divorce had been finalized for almost a year when we decided to move in together. Paul, I'm afraid, didn't fare so well. After the divorce was finalized, he and the blonde he had been fooling around with broke up when he knocked her up, and then took off on her. She realized she was only one in a long string of playthings, and that Paul had seduced several clients. She took him to court, and in court she wasn't nearly as discreet as Beverly was. She aired everything out, and by the time Blondie was finished he had lost his wife, his girlfriend, his practice, his home, and everything he held dear. Last we heard, he had moved away from New York to someplace out west. All I know is that Beverly and I remain very happy and content together. I am still in the private detective business, and Beverly is still every bit the lady.